Welcome to today's episode of Expert Showcase. Today on the show we have Jeff McMahon, and he's going to be talking and teaching you, showing you all about business versus body and health. Which comes first? Hey Jeff, how you doing today?
I'm great. How are you doing, Chris?
Epic as usual. Jeff, I'm so looking forward to having you on the show today. I'm so looking forward to talking to you all about this topic of business versus body and health, which comes first. I find it interesting at the time of recording this, within the last, 30 days, there's been a lot of talk. I think it was Sheryl Sandberg might have put something out about the fact of, business, body, and health only being able to choose one or something close to that effect. So if somebody wants to write us in and correct me where I went completely off base and tell me it was somebody else and it was a deeper article, that's fine. But the whole point is every time people in business talk about it, you always hear the choice of kind of an either or. Even Michael Hyatt, about a year ago, I think it was a year and a half ago, said something to the effect of, he had gone from working out and he was like at 6% body fat or 3% body fat or something insane. And he was working out every day and he realized he had to devote more time to the business. And when he did, his health, his body, he wasn't as ripped as he was before. So I can't wait to get into the expert focus segment and talk all about this topic with you, an expert in the field of business versus body and health, which comes first. As always, what we're going to do is jump into the hero's journey, and we're going to jump in and talk a little bit about where you were, what that turning point in your life was for you, and where you've gotten to be the success you are. And we know a lot of people's hero's journey don't include yet the going back and bringing people forward. I'm sure yours probably does. So we just focus on the area of beginning, turning point, and aftermath. So start off with, why don't you give us a quick overview of your hero's journey?
Yeah, my hero's journey is almost by accident, I guess you would say. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a surgeon. Doctor was the coolest thing in the world to me. And when I was 2 years into pre-med, I found out I'm colorblind, I can't go to med school. So that shifted me over to pharmacy and business major. So I have a business degree with a double minor in pre-med and pre-pharm. I got out of college, and my mom had a massive stroke. I did a lot of therapy with her. From what I learned, got certified in massage therapy, and then from there, got certified into personal training. I liked helping people. I loved helping mom go through her rehab and things of that nature. And in my mind, personal training made sense. So we gone through personal training. I'm certified in exercise and sports medicine. So the combination of the medicine side and the sports side allows me to help a very dynamic group of people. And so when we had her stroke, she was, why don't we do an online support system for people that can't get out of their house, stroke. She lost use of the left side of her body. So traveling was a pain in the ass. So from there, we did an online thing, and then as my personal training, I was like, I got to take this to people all across the country, not just my mom's support group. And at the time, she was in New York. So she, by chance had a stroke, spawned me into having this relation of virtual training to help people all over the country that are busy, that have issues or whatever, and take my knowledge to their home. So it's convenient, holds them accountable, and gets them the results that they're looking for.
Epic, I'm so, your mom is, your mom made it through the stroke. So, but my condolences on at least her having to go through that. I know how life altering that can be for both the patient and their family. So it's epic that you've taken that and created something, epic on the other side of that and gotten, and gotten through that. So I just wanted to commend you on that, and whether it was an accident or whether it was all part of the, whether it was all part of the design and all part of the plan, I commend you, because a lot of people wouldn't have had the foresight to turn a tragedy into something successful. So that,
Right.
that is, that's one of the most epic things I think we've heard on the show. We've had some people who've turned tragedies, but like I said, I'm kind of a little lost for words, because health things are always going through a tragedy like that. It is always a tough thing. So once again, epic
Yeah.
job.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. So let's dive right in and let's get into the beginning. You said you always wanted to be a doctor, and that's what you were originally gonna go to school for, right?
hmm Yeah. I love helping people. I'm a people-pleasing kind of guy, and just seeing people smile on their face. I played collegiate soccer, so I got the sports side. Um, and just getting out of college, I was doing triathlons. I was fit, and I'm like, wanted to take my drive and passion and make it into something of a career. And so I was training for about 6 years in a corporate gym. I was the head trainer in Cincinnati, Ohio, for a place called Urban Active. They had 37 locations, and I liked it. It was the corporate side. They were giving me clients as opposed to me getting to with who I wanted to. They had the prices and all that kind of stuff. So when they got bought out by LA Fitness, I went on my own, and that's where that spark happened, that aha moment of that virtual training needs to be what is out there because no one's doing it. And I just happened to come across Pat Flynn's podcast, and he was talking about wanting to train for triathlon. And I'm like, oh, I got 6 people doing the Ironman this year. Why don't I reach out to him and see if he wants to training for a triathlon? And a year and a half ago on Christmas, he reluctantly said yes. And in January, we started, trained 2 triathlons, flew out there in September, first triathlon, got to meet him, spend the weekend with him. And since then, he's loved it, and we've continued. It's been 19 months now we've been together,
Yeah,
going strong and keeping it going. And that spark just, ignited my business to go from 33,000 a year to well over 6 figures a year, and just keep growing exponentially year after year.
yeah, that's amazing. And I love how you put it that he reluctantly agreed. I guess I've never been in a triathlon. I mean, I've done some longer bike rides and that sort of thing. I'm not too big into the whole running aspect. Love the water. So, it's kind of like to be in a triathlon, I would think you'd at least need to be okay with all three things, and I'm not too big on the running. Biking, swimming, cool. But I kind of laugh because you said reluctantly, and I guess it would have to be anybody who'd put their body through what you have to go through in a triathlon. Either you're really passionate about it, or I guess that's just a quick, complete off the wall question here. What gets somebody into, because this might apply to business anyway, what gets somebody into being a triathlete?
Most of the time with triathletes, it's that goal setting. They want to achieve something. I mean, triathlon is, depending on what level you do, is one of the hardest sports athletic thing you can achieve to do. I mean, the Ironman is the epic. That's the 140.4 miles, and you're spending 16 hours to finish these things. So Pat wanted to just we did a sprint and an Olympic, which is the smallest one, and then the next one up, for his first time doing it. And the reluctancy is, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know that he was this big godfather of internet marketing and all this jazz. I just heard him. He was the very first podcast, so and then it popped up. And then second, he could have anyone, he could afford any trainer he wants. And what's this guy halfway across the country virtually going to train him to do a triathlon? And it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, well, and I think you hit the nail on the head, though. A lot of times in business, we look at people who we know are influencers, and people look at us as influencers and specifically come after us for that reason. And, they have an ulterior motive in the back of their head going, well, this person's an influencer. So if I reach out to them and if I just get seen or known by them, then my business is going to take off. Where you, on the other hand, did exactly the opposite in what I believe is the right way. You see somebody that you can help, you reach out to them in the interest of helping them, and in the end stumble across the fact that, wow, they're kind of big and kind of popular, and yeah, if this does work out, that things can skyrocket. So I think that's
Right.
one of the huge learnings. I want to go back a little bit further, though, because in the beginning phase, whenever we're going through, before we hit that turning point, before we hit that success, that afterwards, people go through a lot in the beginning. Sometimes they're successful, sometimes they aren't. So before the turning point, before you had this aha to turn this into a virtual before your mom's stroke, before you had the aha to turn this into a virtual thing, during that beginning time, what do you remember about that? Were you successful? Were you struggling? What was going on in that beginning time?
The beginning time, I was yearning for knowledge, so I kept, I got one certification and I got a second one. I was quickly noticed by the director of fitness for the health gym that I was at, and I was one of the very first head trainers in the whole organization to, be in charge, do all the hiring, the firing, being the manager of the personal training department. And so my drive was there to grow and be a leader. And over that time, I needed that because I was still new into the fitness world. Playing sports is one thing, but to take that knowledge and apply it to someone that's completely different or that's 50 years older than you and has injuries and all that kind of stuff is a different ballpark. So when I was in the beginning phases, it was all about knowledge, a lot of studying, and just learning my craft. So, it took me about 2 or 3 years to have covered enough diversity of people that anyone that comes in front of me, I'm 100% comfortable dealing with. Instead of, oh, I don't know what to do with a spinal stenosis, I got to back away. Now, that's like second nature, or whatever the issue may be.
Right, and that's epic, and it's what I love that you said is you were yearning for knowledge. A lot of people, especially in the culture and the climate we in, are yearning for that success. And one of my mentors, John Maxwell, often talks about you want to do what I did, you want to do what I do, but you want to do what I do you want to do what I did to get here. Whew, I can say that way too many do's and dids in there, but it's the same thing that you're talking about. You were yearning for knowledge, and I'm sure you wanted to succeed. But you understood that, if you just got the knowledge and then applied it and did it in the right way, that you would succeed. I mean, is that a fair assessment, or were you out there, pushing yourself even further, and I'll say demanding your success and your place in the business before you were actually ready? Which way did you go?
I went with the first. Like even now, when I switched to the virtual training, I really didn't know much about the online world, about podcasts and webinars and all that kind of stuff. So I dove right into business books, listened to as many podcasts as I can, taking notes, slowly but surely applying them. I started with a Squarespace website, and then it transitioned to a WordPress website, and just over time doing it by myself, because that's how I learn the best, and that's how, when I make the mistakes, because I've made a ton of mistakes, ton of business mistakes, I grow and I succeed further because of those learnings.
Yeah, exactly. I think we all have. I used to tell everybody, you don't have to worry about making mistakes with your money because I've already made all of them with my, with my own money or my own time. So from the
Exactly.
beginning, yeah, exactly. So from the beginning phase, is there one big learning or key point that you'd like the audience and our viewers to understand that you got out of your beginning phase?
Yeah, the beginning phase that really messed me up was the shiny object syndrome, because getting into the virtual side, I was like, you know what, I'm going to host 5K charity races. I'm a fitness guy. I like to be fit, so how hard can it be to get people together to run? They do them all the time. And I lost about $15,000 in that 3-race venture trying to get people to show up, learn marketing, learn, t-shirt design, medallions, music, food, all that kind of jazz. And I took a lot away from it as far as how people view those things, working with charities. I'm in Cincinnati. I teamed up with 10 local charities, so I grew my outreach as far as my donations and things go, but it was very costly to me and my family. I thought this was going to be my big break, so that 33,000 a year dropped down to about 17,000 that year. My wife was about ready to kill me. I'm lucky I'm still alive. And she's a police officer, so she has 2 guns. We have a German Shepherd police dog, so multiple ways I could not be here right now. But anyway, but from that, I learned to never do that again, to focus what I'm good at. So the biggest takeaway was I'm good at helping people. I'm good at health and fitness. Stick to that craft. And from there, from that point forward is when my business started to grow, double every year continuously.
Epic. So I think it's an epic place for us to pause for just one quick second and then go right into the turning point. So I know this was, I know there's definitely some, some feelings and some, uh, it was definitely not a good time. I mean, because one of the pieces of the turning point was, happened around your, happened because of your mom's stroke. So let's talk about
Hmm.
the turning point a little bit here and what you went through and what you learned and what knowledge you can pass on to our viewers from that.
The turning point of the business loss or the turning point of the health with my mom? Which side do you want to go through?
Well, in the end, it's all part of your hero's journey. So whichever you feel most comfortable and you feel your biggest learnings came from, what we like to do
Okay.
is see, okay, right at that turning point, and what was going on, and what made you make the decisions, and then what decisions you made based on that sort of thing. So our
Okay.
audience can learn when they're going through and experiencing the same thing themselves.
Yeah, like with the races, I did learn about what radio media is like. What I did TV commercials, I did billboards, I did magazine ads. So I got to understand that aspect of it for a community, and that knowledge was invaluable. But the hard part is that I would spend $5,000 on marketing and only reap about $1,000 to $2,000 in profit from the race. So I was at a loss and I was like, okay, the next race is going to be bigger, and it wasn't. And the next race was going to be even bigger, and it wasn't. And you know, I I should have scaled it down a lot more than that, and I didn't. But in my head, the shiny object was, oh, if I just get 600 people there, I'll make $20,000, and this will be easy, and it's a weekend, and who doesn't want to show up for a good cause? Um, and so I neglected everything else because I was just so focused on seeing that big $20,000 number or whatever number it was for the race, and realizing that it wasn't my passion. I don't run now. I mean, I do triathlons, but I don't run for fun. I'm not like, oh, let's go run 10 miles today. I'm not that guy. So I just didn't have that desire, and I kind of forced it on myself, and that's where the biggest learning point for anyone is focus. What your desire is what your gut will tell you, and when you listen to that is when you reap the benefits of your business being successful. People word of mouth just growing because, oh, Jeff's a great trainer, and you guys got to work out with him. Look at these results I got. Pat went from never doing a triathlon to being the 110 out of 1,200 men. He was in like almost the top 10 percentile of it. Beat his goal time by over 20 minutes. Like, things of that nature is what I'm good at. So when I stick to that is when the success came.
Yeah, and it's so interesting you point out because I'm a big believer in the law of attraction. I do believe that, when we're asking for the right things and we're asking for things that are what we're meant to have, that they will come. It's kind of like you can't ask for, can't ask for $1 billion if you're meant to have a million. So, I mean, it's something that you can't ask for. And just like in your case, you are out asking for this success in these races and doing what we all do because we've all read Napoleon Hill, we've all read, Maxwell Maltz, we've all read James Allen, we've all read, Wallace D. Wattles, we've all read all these guys, and basically it's like, look, you have to have this vision, and if you just stick to the vision, and you never know when you're 3 feet from gold, and all the stuff that we've been taught in this industry. And while it definitely works, and there's definitely cases where it has worked, where you have to keep going, at some points you have to look at it and say, as you did, you have to look at it and say, hey, isn't in my passion lane, isn't what I'm meant to do, isn't my 0 point, isn't what I do best. So no matter how much I hope and pray and want 600 people to show up, there's just things that it's just not gonna happen. So
Exactly.
the question for you is this though, is so let's say somebody is out there and really believe, has had a bad event or a bad first thing, but really believes it's their passion and they want to keep going. What learnings when you had the bad for when you had a less than ideal first event and you tried to do your second event, did you change anything? Did you do anything different, or did you do exactly the same thing you did for the first event and just more of it? Which was it?
I changed the marketing. So like the first event was a dog run. You run with your dog, and so that one was radio spots and TV commercials because dogs are cute on TV. And so we got 150 people there that showed up. But it was pouring down rain. It wasn't a great weekend, so that was bad. Then the second one was going to be a Mother's Day race, and I had like TV giveaway prizes, pure romance things, Victoria's Secret gift cards, like all this kind of stuff. So I went with more of the merchandising, and we did billboard ads for that one. Literally 13 people signed up for that race, and I had to cancel it, which means I lost all the money I spent on the advertising. So then the next one was a country music race. So I spent a lot on bars where people are listening to country music at nighttime. Went to a lot of restaurants. I had a live band there. Went to I paid for radio spots on country music stations and in the magazines and stuff like that for what I thought people were going to be checking out. And I had 250 people show up to that one. That was my most successful one. But again, it was nowhere near the point of profit that was what I needed. So
I think that's a really interesting story because you did what everybody would say you should have done to be successful. It's not like, a lot of times I'll hear people who promoted events, and I've done it too. I mean, I've promoted events and, I've tried to do the whole word of mouth thing. And, I've gotten people involved in the events that I knew were good promoters that just didn't come through and didn't promote. So, people would say, well, you could have done more. But man, listen to everything you did. You did everything right. You went out and said, okay, I'm going to go to where the people are. I'm going to give the giveaways that are going to attract people to the event. I'm going to do everything right. And yet you still didn't make a profit. So my question to you, and the reason I want to kind of summarize that is I have a question to you. After that third event, after that, when you had, you get 250 people, which is a lot of people, but it's not profitable, so you needed a lot more. What did you think about at that point? What was going through your mind after that third event? Did you think about doing a fourth event, or was that the point where things just changed and you said, I got to do something different?
I was planning on doing a fourth event, which was an 80s themed race, and it was just at that third race that I realized I was marketing to the wrong people. Instead of marketing to runners who actually do races and want to keep going with races, I was marketing to the masses of just anyone that had a dog, saying, hey, come to this dog race, as opposed to runners that have dogs. So it taught me about the niche market and focus on, you can't market to everybody because no one's going to show up. I was a prime example of that. I should have focused on, runners the entire time, going to the running stores, the running magazines, that kind of jazz. I just assumed that was a given, and and after that third race, I was going to do the fourth one, but the wife was on the opposite side of that opportunity, so if I wanted to stay married, we had to go through a compromise, and I'm still married. So,
well, and it's interesting because it's always great to have that balance in your life, that person that helps balance you out. It's great when they support your dreams, but it's also good when they've given you the support for the dreams, but then at least are willing to talk to you and kind of, balance things out and because I'm sure that she at least gave you an opportunity to run the fourth race. I'm sure she wasn't like, I'm leaving you if you run a fourth race, right?
No, not that. It was just, she's like, we have 2 kids, we have a house, we have a mortgage, you're down this much. I mean, we can't, it just, we weren't going to go, I didn't want to go through bankruptcy. It was a bad year, financially as it was anyway, but it, you have to fail in order to succeed next. I mean, I don't know anyone that's in business that just automatically succeeded.
Right. And even the people who do seem like they automatically succeeded have been doing other things forever. Like there's a story, I think it's Brendan Burchard, wrote children's books before he became, the motivational experts academy type speaker,
right,
and everything he is today. So I think everybody's got that story. John Maxwell was a pastor of a church in Hillham, Indiana. It was like 12 people or something crazy like that. So, So yeah, it's very, very interesting. In fact, I also just saw, everybody knows how big of a success Tony Robbins is, but I just saw, I think, somebody put on their Facebook something about, what started off in in small halls is now up to arenas, and I guess they're going to do an unleashed. It sounds like they're doing an unleashed the power within in an arena coming in the next year or something like that, like in a big arena
Wow.
setting. So yeah, it's kind of, and there's going to be a lot of people who, granted, unless you're under a rock for the last 20 years, probably not. But there's going to be some people who just have never heard of Tony Robbins. You go, wow, he's big. He just is overnight success. And it's like, no, you obviously were watching the infomercials in the 90s where he was walking on the beach talking to, I forget the newscaster's name, but talking about living in a bus and all those other stuff. So we can go
Right.
on forever about that. So let me take my one breath an hour and then let's jump into the aftermath, because
Okay.
after this turning point of having the races and just looking at it and just not succeeding, then you obviously at that point, like you had said during the third race, and for those of you who just tuning in, you're going to have to go back and watch the turning point in the rest of this episode to hear the whole story. And Jeff, you were saying during that third race is when you were finally starting to get the clue in your gut that maybe doing this wasn't your passion. Is that correct?
Yes, the third race was the point of, listening to the people around me as opposed to being a stubborn entrepreneur. No, 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 this is it, and not taking a objective view of my surroundings. It was when, after that third race, I was like, okay, I need to reevaluate the situation.
Yeah, and I love it. You say being a stubborn entrepreneur, and I hear thinking with the head, and then we're also talking about trusting your gut. So at that point, if you can remember, were you thinking that you were being stubborn because it's what your gut was telling you to do, or were you overriding your intuition with what was going on in your head? Can you remember what you were going through at that point?
Yeah, I was overriding what my gut was telling me. My gut, what I love to do, what I'm good at, was not races. And I was like, no, we're going to do this. I see all these races, and Cincinnati is a big running place. There's mud runs here. There's all this jazz. I'm like, this is going to be easy. We just need to do one more time. We just need to do another one. And I should have listened to my gut as opposed to overriding it.
Yeah, and I love that because once again, as we talked about in the previous, everybody's read, Think and Grow Rich, and everybody's heard the story 3 feet from gold. And the problem with some of us entrepreneurs is we always think that we're 3 feet from gold, and we shut off that intuition that's telling us, well, okay, let's try a different path. Because while you might have been 3 feet from maybe bronze at that point,
Right.
obviously you switched paths and you found gold. So
Yeah.
you dug in a different direction. When you were going through, because I'm quite sure there's many entrepreneurs and many coaches who are watching the show right now who are going through the same thing, that have heard all this stuff about, keep pushing forward and keep digging that tunnel to find that gold. When you went through, you had said you started to reevaluate things. Do you remember any process you went through? Was there any, thing you sat down, did you write things down? Did you talk to people? What process did you go through to start reevaluating things?
Well, I was personal training the whole time of doing these races. The races was going to be, so big that I could stop personal training and do this full-time event thing. But so, I would ask my clients, what am I doing wrong? What's going on here? What's the magic secret to make this thing happen? And that was when, not only my wife, but some of the other people were like, you're not a runner. You can't just do this and think it's going to automatically work. You're good at training. Focus on what you're good at. And um, as soon as I did that was the transitional point of, okay, how do I grow, my solopreneur business of, a personal trainer? How do I grow my brand out there? What do I do to increase word of mouth? How do I set up referral programs? How do I do challenges to make it more fun and people wanting to come in and tell their friends about it? Things of that nature.
Oh, epic. And that's, it's all about focus. It's all about, focusing on what you're best at and what makes you successful and what makes you you, and then channeling all your energies in that direction, right?
I mean, because I would after that third race and losing all that money, it hurt inside. My dream is to be successful and not live paycheck to paycheck, and we were definitely living paycheck to paycheck at the time, and I just had that burning desire of never I never want to get a job again. I always want to work for myself. And so the entrepreneur fire was inside me, but just the path to success was not, I wasn't on the right one. I just had to alter it and take a hard left.
So let me ask you a question because a lot of people struggle with this. They look at people who are entrepreneurs maybe doing information products or doing something else, and I'll say races is a great example because races is a one to many thing. You can do it once, bring many people in, and you can make a profit off of it. Was there any drive? Did So let me ask you this first. Was there any drive to get out of the one-to-one thing and take your skills and knowledge to a greater audience? Was that part of the drive?
Yeah, that was part of the drive. Try to grow, not the infomercial, P90X kind of style, but to have a bigger um, community following of people that like what I do. I'm different from everyone else because of my um, diversity in my workouts. I use every single functional piece of equipment you have. I'm a black belt, so I do a lot of martial arts and kickboxing with my clients. We do a lot of sports training. I used to be a gymnast, so we incorporate that in the core. So it's when you think of personal trainer, most people see a meathead. We're just going to build big muscle and that's it. I'm more of the fun, sarcastic, enjoy the workout, but at the same time, half my people, are battling cancer or diabetes or had a total knee replacement. I do a lot of the injury rehab, that kind of jazz that I can transfer someone's life of being miserable and not being able to do much to going from a knee replacement at 66 years old and that next year going with their son to Scotland and climbing 17 castles, 1,500 steps. Like, he didn't miss a beat, and he's, thanked me for that because of the ability that he's able to do.
Right. And isn't that so much more enjoyable? And doesn't it give you so much more happiness and satisfaction than watching 300 people run for 5 or 10K?
Yes, exactly.
Well, but and it's kind of a little bit of a joke, but that ends up becoming the serious part of this is the fact that, and I guess where I was getting at before, let me ask you a direct question. Was the draw of making possibly quick money in a short time? In other words, running the races, yes, having to invest a lot, but then boom, being able to just market it and then, on that race day, you get 5,000 people and you've made a huge profit. Do you think the draw of making that, I'll call it quick money versus the passion you have, do you think that draw of making quick money overrode the passion you had for other things, meaning that that was kind of like you were looking at that brass ring, just going for that brass ring and not realizing that you could build a more successful business um, with doing what you really loved?
Yeah, because I mean the races were stressful and it was that shiny object syndrome, like, oh, that quick money is going to make such a big difference. And in reality, um, I'm more successful now. I mean, I work 6.5 days a week. I'm always working, but I don't wake up stressed any day. I love all my clients that I have. I get to hang out with friends more than, oh, I got to go to work on Monday. And Mondays from 6 in the morning until 8:30 at night. So my Mondays are a long day of people, but I look forward to it because we get to hang out, get to catch up on them. We get to transform their life, meet whatever goals they're looking for, and I just never want that anxiety. So in doing what I love makes me happy literally every single day of my life.
Yeah, and that is so important. I think that's a good place to kind of wrap up the aftermath because it is so important to be able to do what you love and to be able to figure out how to monetize it. And the beautiful part about living in the time and age we are is you can monetize pretty much anything. Whether you can monetize it to live a successful lifestyle or not, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother time. There are, many things you can, and most things, you can find enough with going on 8 billion people, or how many ever billion people we have in the world today. We're fortunate to live in the time that we do because if you're just looking at monetizing something for you, excuse me, or for your family, usually you can monetize your passion in a way that'll at least give you a sustainable life. And the interesting thing, and I can't wait to talk about this in the second half, because Jeff, just to give a real quick preview of the second half, I think you mentioned about being a virtual trainer and training some people, if not, training at least some of your clients virtually, right?
Correct.
Oh, epic. So I'm sure during as we talk about being accountable, nutrition, and knowledge of a plan, I'm sure we'll be able to throw some stuff in there because I'm really interested to hear, excuse me, more about that piece of your business as well. So folks, I think we're gonna do a cough counter for the over-under today. For those of you, yes, I haven't announced an over-under. I was trying to figure out if it was a scratch or a cough, but I think it's gonna be a cough, and I'm already at 2, so we're gonna make it 5. So the under is 4, the push is 5, and the over is 6. For those of you who never watched before, you'll get the hang of it. For those of you old hats to this, there's number 3. I think I'd bet the over today. I don't know. Just me. I think I'd bet the over. But then again, it's you and it's your own thing, whatever you want to do. So we're going to take a very, very quick break so you can figure out whether you want to bet the over or under, and then we'll be back with Jeff, and we're going to talk all about business versus body and health, which comes first, and I'm sure we're also getting into at least a little bit about Jeff's virtual training and how epic and interesting that whole concept is. So stick around, and we'll be right back.
To watch the rest of this epic episode now, click on the link below the video. Do it now, you'll be glad you did. Are you still here? What are you waiting for? Watch the rest of this epic episode now by clicking on the link below the video.